This haunting surveillance image shows a 55-year-old killer slipping away from the apartment of his latest victim, Mauna Pandey, a 21-year-old Nepali college student. Mauna came to the U.S. with dreams of building a better life for herself and her family, but those dreams turned into a nightmare when she crossed paths with a predator, one who used his wealth and power to prey on vulnerable young women. When Mauna resisted, he crossed a line no one ever should. Mauna Pandey had been shot 4 times, 3 times in the torso and a 4th time in the back of her head, execution style, an officer stated. Prosecutors say the video shows Shaw leaving after that, and they believe he took her cell phone with him. The details in this case are pretty disturbing, but before we get into that, let's go back to the beginning. Mauna Pandey was a beautiful, vibrant, and brilliant college student who was full of dreams and aspirations. Originally from Nepal, she was mostly raised by her mother, Anita Adhikari, who had escaped a violent and abusive marriage. The scars from that ran deep in her mother. Anita's only hope was for Mauna to have a better life and never experience what she went through. So when Mauna turned 19, Anita made a heart-wrenching decision to send her halfway across the world to the United States. She hoped that this distant land would offer her the safety and the opportunities that had been denied to them in their homeland. In 2021, Mauna left Nepal behind and stepped into the vast, unknown world of Houston, Texas, a bustling city that was a far cry from her homeland. But Mauna adapted quickly. She got an apartment with a friend she had known from Nepal and enrolled in the nursing program at Houston Community College. Almost immediately, her charm and warmth drew people to her. Her classmates were captivated by her spirit and described her as outgoing, friendly, and endlessly kind. She was full of life, outgoing, friendly, and she made lots of friends, said Tori Bra, one of her close friends. Those are the things I admired in her that I want in myself. I want her confidence, her independence. I learned so much from her. Mauna also loved sharing her culture with her friends, often taking them to a Nepali restaurant called Kathmandu Curry, where she worked. Brian Evans, another close friend, fondly remembered their first outing together. Mauna had taken them all to the restaurant before heading out for a night of roller skating. But it wasn't just her lively spirit that her friends admired. Her unyielding work ethic also stood out. Her friends noted how she had learned to drive, rented her own apartment, and paid her way through school without a single handout. When I say she worked for everything, if she wanted something, she was able to get it. Evans said it was inspirational watching her from when she was 19 to now, how she made a life for herself coming straight from a foreign land. But even with everything she accomplished, there was always something weighing on Muna's life. Trying to build a new future in a foreign place all by herself was a lot more difficult than anyone realized. Her friends only saw small signs of the struggle behind her smile. Long nights working several jobs, feeling lonely without her family, and the constant pressure to succeed. But underneath it all, things were changing, leading her to make decisions that would sadly turn out to be fatal. Saturday, August 24, 2024, was like any other day for Muna. She was finishing her shift at a cell phone store where she worked tirelessly to support both herself and her mother. She left work at 8 p.m. with plans to meet her friends for a birthday party later that evening, but she never showed up. One of her friends grew uneasy when his messages went unanswered. Muna was never one to ignore texts, let alone miss plans without a single word. The manager at the phone store also found it weird when Muna didn't respond to his message about her work schedule the next day. I was checking the cameras and saw she left the store at 8:06, he said. Then I texted her on Sunday afternoon because I was making my schedule for the week. I asked, "Do you want extra hours?" No response. I sent out the schedule too, and still no answer. The weekend went by without any sign of her. Then, on Monday, August 26th, an unsettling call came to the apartment complex where Muna lived. The leasing manager picked up, only to hear a haunting male voice reporting a dead body before abruptly hanging up. The manager went to check the unit and noted right away that something was off. The door was unlocked, and an eerie silence hung in the air. She went inside and peeked into the bedroom, and what she saw made her immediately back out and call the police. When officers arrived at the apartment at 5:45 p.m., they were met with a chilling sight. Muna lay motionless in her bed, her body riddled with bullet wounds. The autopsy would later reveal the brutal nature of the attack. 4 bullets, 3 tearing through her torso and 1 fired at the back of her head in a cold, execution-style manner. There were no signs of forced entry, leading authorities to suspect that Muna knew her killer. Investigators believed her body had been lying there for days before it was finally discovered. They also noted that her phone was missing, likely taken by the person who ended her life. These are among the photos being shared of 21-year-old Muna Pandey, days after what appears to have been her brutal murder. She had 3 gunshot wounds, and she was found lying on the bed, face down, said Dronacharya, who serves on the board of the Nepalese Association of Houston and is in touch with Pandey's family back home in Nepal during this difficult time, including her mother. This is very unfortunate for her because she's the only child of her mother. So, she's very devastated, Acharya said. Pandey, who I'm told came to Houston in 2021 to attend school, was found dead Monday evening inside her unit at an apartment complex on West Airport. Complex staff told officers that prior to calling 911, they had received an anonymous tip about a body inside her unit. Acharya says there were no signs of forced entry when he and others visited the scene. As investigators worked to piece together the puzzle of her death, the tragic news made its way to her family in Nepal. Her mom, Anita, had been trying to reach Muna since Saturday night, but with no luck. She brushed off her worries, believing her daughter was traveling and simply couldn't get to her phone. I thought she had gone on a trip somewhere, but this is beyond imagination, Anita would later say. Her life came crumbling down Tuesday morning when she received a chilling phone call from one of Muna's friends. Her friend informed me of Muna's death early on Tuesday. I was devastated when the caller broke the bad news while sobbing. I fainted as soon as I heard the news. I've lost my support, my everything. I don't know what to do next. I can't think ahead, Anita recalled. Muna had been making plans to return home the following year after finishing her studies, but now she's gone, never to return. She demanded that her daughter's killer be found and dealt with harshly. I had such high hopes for Muna. She was so bright. The killer must be brought to justice. The news of Muna's devastating death also shook her friends and the tight-knit Nepali community in Houston. They described her as a very smart, loyal, and honest person and called for justice to be done. Muna Pandey came to the United States in 2021 with big dreams and just her suitcases. The 21-year-old from Nepal wanted to become a travel nurse and work hard enough to someday bring her mom to visit. What I really admire about her is, she came here alone to America by herself. She always believed in herself. She always had the confidence that she could do it, her friends said. Speaking only with KPRC2, her friends are scared to reveal their identities and shocked that she's suddenly gone. I didn't believe it because I was like, there's no way. I just can't imagine something happening to her. Houston police got called to the reserve at 6,363 apartments in southwest Houston after staff received an anonymous call reporting a body inside the unit Monday evening. Investigators found Pandey dead, having been stabbed multiple times. For it to happen in her home, it's just hard to describe. Outside her front door, a friend brought flowers to a growing memorial with a message that reads, "Fly high, sweet girl. Nobody's going to forget her. Nobody can forget her. She just had that type of personality." Muna's friends started a GoFundMe page and raised over $40,000 for Anita to travel to Houston for her daughter's funeral. The emotional service was attended by hundreds of people who came to mourn her death and show their support to her family. As you'll see, it was a very emotional ceremony. The funeral took 2 weeks because Muna's mother had to travel to Houston to say her final goodbye to her only child. The language of a heartbroken mother is universal. At today's traditional Hindu funeral ceremony, every seat in the room was taken. I was very happy when she came to America, and she moved to Houston for me. Muna's best friend from Nepal has known her since she was 10 years old. I was hoping that for the rest of my life we would be inseparable like we were. She says she still can't believe any of this is real. I just think that she's going to text me again. It just hasn't hit me yet. Why was Muna a victim of it? That's the answer we're waiting for. Drawn AAM with the Nepali Association of Houston helped organize today's ceremony. He says about half of the people here today knew Muna, the others were strangers touched by the tragedy. According to the Hindu religion, Dran Gautam says Muna's killer will face justice now or later. Basically, yeah, and as all religions say, it's karma. Meanwhile, investigators were working around the clock, trying to find the person responsible for the heinous murder. They questioned family members and friends, hoping for any clue that could break the case open. Muna's mom, Anita, revealed that her daughter had once mentioned dating a white American man, but she didn't know where that relationship stood in recent times. But the most disturbing lead came from one of Muna's close friends. About a year before her death, Muna had reportedly confided in him that she had a stalker. He didn't share many details, like what the stalker had done or how she had discovered it, but he said that he had helped Muna install motion-activated cameras above her apartment door. Strangely, after the cameras were set up, the harassment suddenly stopped. This revelation sent a shiver through the investigators. It suggested that the shadow looming over Muna's life had been lurking longer than anyone knew. Investigators wanted to go through the surveillance camera to see if it captured anything from the night she was killed, and what they found was truly chilling. When investigators accessed the recordings, they uncovered 3 haunting videos from the night of her murder. In the first video, captured around 8:40 p.m., she was seen approaching her door with a man by her side. She was carrying a shoebox, a shopping bag, a black jacket, and her purse, but the man held something far more sinister, a gun. He ordered her to open the door. Muna, who appeared nervous and scared, asked what he planned to do, and he responded by racking the slide of the gun and telling her to open the door again. Muna hesitantly unlocked the door, and the man shoved her inside, locking it behind them. One of the neighbors said he heard loud thumps from her apartment around 9 p.m. that night. Then, an hour later, the surveillance camera recorded the strange man leaving the apartment, and this time he was clutching the black purse Muna had been carrying earlier. Authorities believe that within that grim window, Muna's life had been taken. Houston police shared a still image from a surveillance camera yesterday of a man leaving the apartment unit of 21-year-old Muna Pond. By Wednesday, August 28th, the suspect's image was plastered all over social media and local TV screens, and it didn't take long for calls to start flooding in, each one offering clues about the man's identity. One call in particular stood out. It came from the owner of the Nepali restaurant where Muna had once worked. He revealed that the man had been a regular patron of the restaurant, often chatting with the women who worked there and leaving unusually large tips. He believed that's how Muna likely crossed paths with him. The restaurant owner added something else. He had been in contact with the man about starting a business. In fact, he had copies of the man's driver's license and cell phone number, which he immediately handed over to investigators. The other caller was a woman who said she recognized the man from the footage instantly. She knew him as Bobby Shaw, someone she met through a sugar daddy website back in 2012. Armed with this information, authorities quickly zeroed in on 51-year-old Bobby Shaw. He was arrested on September 4th during a traffic stop, still wearing the same red-stained clothes captured on camera as he left Muna's apartment. The gun, which police believe was the murder weapon, was also found in his car. But who was Bobby Shaw, and why did he kill Muna? Just 2 hours ago, the man charged with capital murder in Muna Pond's killing went before a judge on a gun charge related to this case. Bobby Shaw has been granted $2,000 bond for that charge, but he will not be released from jail because he's being held without bond for capital murder. Now, there isn't a lot of information about him, but from what I could gather, he is originally from India and moved to the U.S. sometime during his childhood. At the time of this incident, he had a respectable position as a vice president of an unnamed company. While the exact motive for the gruesome murder has not been officially released, there are speculations as to why he could have done it. One theory is that he and Muna had been involved in a relationship, and when she tried to end it, he snapped. However, Muna's friends have firmly denied this, saying she never mentioned anything about being involved with him. Another, far darker theory suggests that he was deeply obsessed with her, attempting to lure her into a relationship using gifts and money. When his attempts failed, rage took over, leading him to commit this horrifying act. Either way, the grim truth is that he took Muna's life in cold blood, and she did not deserve it. He now faces capital murder charges, among others. Muna's mother has been clear in her demand for the maximum punishment. The killer must be brought to justice, she said in an interview. Her mom, at least, is thankful that he has been arrested. Thank God, at least he's arrested, she said, asking for the harshest penalty for him. It's unclear if Muna's death was the result of a random crime or if the pair had previously met. We don't know what caused him to do this action, but we want justice for her memory and for all the women who die violently. During his first hearing, the courtroom was filled with Muna's grieving family and friends, who could be heard crying as they listened to what happened to the college student. Members of the Nepalese Association of Houston also came forward to offer their support, with the vice president expressing his hope and prayers for justice. The prosecution asked for no bail, saying that Bobby poses a grave risk of danger to the community. Meanwhile, Bobby Shaw's lawyer said his client is 100% innocent and excited to prove his innocence. I can tell you Mr. Shaw is in great spirits as it stands today. That's a pretty strange thing to say, considering that the said client just murdered someone. It shows that he has no remorse and refuses to take responsibility for what he did. We are happy that he got denied on the bail, and I appreciate whoever is working towards it. I really appreciate everyone helping with this case and supporting us and Muna's memory, her family said. The prosecutor and defense attorneys also spoke about today's case. I felt it was incumbent upon us to definitely ask for no bail in this case. I believe he poses a grave risk of danger to our community. The evidence that he's provided us, the conversations that he's had with us, there's no reason for us to believe that he is not guilty of the case that he's been charged with, which is capital murder. The defense attorney responded, "We're looking forward to proving his innocence in the court of law." As of October 2024, there have been no new updates on the case, though Bobby is still being held without bond. It will likely take a few years before the trial begins, but if he is found guilty, he faces life in prison. Now, if you thought this case was shocking, the next one will leave you horrified. But before you go, let me know your thoughts about this case in the comments. Also, like, subscribe, and hit the bell button for more videos.